Hello people, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. We are going to be ranking every Premier League manager that has managed this season. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be glorious. Hopefully I'm going to be able to see you guys soon on my stream. And yes, I can. Life is great. This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. We're going to tell you more about HelloFresh and how they're helping me lose weight, be a bit more sustainable, and just generally eat better food a little bit later on in this stream. But get yourself comfortable because you're going to be involved as well. Okay? We've got ourselves a gorgeous little tier list. Let's have a look at said gorgeous little tier list, because here it is, guys. We've done this in the past. We're about to do it once more, and I want you to get involved throughout. Tell me your thoughts, tell me your feelings, tell me where each manager should go. The different areas that we have here, of course. We have our different tiers. That's the word I wanted. Manager of the Year nominee. Now, so whoever makes it into that top bracket, we will then do a vote together at the end, talking about who should be the Manager of the Year. We will have that JLA vote right now. Impressive. Someone who's had a cracking season, done well, deserves their flowers. He's good, but is he good? It's a great one. It's a classic, isn't it? He's good. Now, we know that. But is he good? We'll get to that. Gone by November. I said, be gone by November, bigger. We all know that song. Will they survive into the new year? And gone forever. Some of these managers will not see the light of day once more. Okay, so lots to get into. Let's not mess about. I'm going to kick off with the big-headed man that is Vincent Kompany, and I mean that in the sense that if I scroll up, you can see everyone else is a bit smaller, and he has just a big head, doesn't he? So, Vincent Kompany, from Burnley's best 10 games based on XG, 8 of them were played in 2024. So he has started to turn it around a little bit, okay? This is tough because I think they could stay up. But if they are to stay up, will it be, a team? It's a team that spent a lot of money, has a lot of impressive youngsters in the team. But at the same time, you've got a manager there that has been very stubborn in how his team has played. And I think higher up in the league, you have to kind of show that quality, and then after that, maybe calm it down. I think lower down the leagues, you've got to be just that touch more pragmatic. They're saying that. Vincent Kompany said something, and it really stuck out in my head. In my tiny or big head, actually. It was that we've been the best team in the last 6 games. If we can be the best team in the next 6 games, we'll give ourselves a chance. And he's kind of done that. Between now and the end of the season, Nottingham Forest should absolutely stay up because they have so much quality in that squad, in my opinion. We'll get to them very soon. But Vincent Kompany, for me, is probably the hardest one to place. I don't think he could easily be gone by November in the sense that he might go to another club. There's been talks about him with De Zerbi, and I think in terms of the stubbornness of his style, the reason behind that is because he wants those top jobs. He wants to move on up. And Burnley is one where he's signed a bit of time because he wants to get it right there. And I think in terms of that desire to be the Man City manager, which will obviously be on his mind, he has to go and do that great job with Burnley. Also, with the money that's come in, it would be a smart thing for him to do that and stay there, get those games, and be a great manager. It's between these two for me. It's obviously not impressive. I think with the quality that was there and what I had in place in terms of my predictions, I think he should have done better. So sadly, I can't put him in either. And I don't think if he's at Burnley next year, he won't be gone by November. They'll do just fine. I think they'll get promoted again. And so I'm going to go with he's good, but is he good? Unai Emery. We'll come back to Unai Emery in a second. Thomas Frank. So his Brentford XG this season and his expected goals against. That's my doorbell, guys. That's my doorbell if you've just heard something. It's almost the same as last season, but they've got 24 less points. 24 less points. I think that's worth putting out there. I spoke to one of my good friends who's a Brentford fan and asked him, how do you feel about Frank this season? He says that with the difficulties that they've had in terms of the injuries, and I'm going to come to this once or twice, right? So this, I've been sent by my mate Dave, but I've forgotten his name now. I feel horrific. There's a guy whose Twitter account is Ben something. He's a stats guy. He's got this to me. So this is every team's days lost to injury. And in terms of time loss, it's the amount of games that those players have then lost. So you might have been out for 3 days, but you haven't missed a game. And Brentford, I thought it was a little bit worse than it says here. But I think the thing to talk about with this is that you can only take this on face value, because the reason I was on Twitter trying to find injuries was the fact that everyone is talking about injuries and how we've had to deal with these injuries, and that's applaud it, or something that you can have a go at a manager for as well. But I think it's how important those players are that you haven't got in. That's also a big part of it. And also how much depth you've got in that squad. That also affects absolutely everything. So Brentford, it's an interesting one, because Brentford have, in terms of games lost, it's 24. This is about a week ago, these stats. But the days that they've lost as well has been huge. And the importance of the players, I think, in what's quite a tight squad when it comes to quality has been a big thing. If you've not got Tony and Mbuemo and Rico Henry, that's going to make your life very, very difficult. And I think overall they've done pretty well to keep it going, keep it calm, and stay safe this season. I think most Brentford fans will be quite happy with that. And I think he's definitely good. So I'm going to put it in an impressive season, because, as I say, the XG is about the same. 24 points less. You can spin that both ways. You can have a go at that. You can say, come on, you've got to go and take those chances. I think he's getting the team up the pitch and they're playing smartly. Then they've not been able to finish it this season for the reasons I've said. Not having Ivan Toney, not having Mbuemo for large parts of the season. That is a massive, massive problem that you have to deal with. Steve Cooper. Now, I think Steve Cooper and Nuno Espirito Santo probably got to do together, haven't we? Let's check them both in. He's good, but is he good? Let's start with Steve Cooper, because Steve Cooper, he was gone by November, was he not? Will he be gone forever? That's a difficult one for all these guys. And there's actually only been 3 changes in managers this year. Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, and Sheffield United. I think we will see him again, and I think we will see him in the Premier League, and I think he was a little bit hard done by. I thought the squad, as I say, I think this Nottingham Forest squad is good. So I think he's a good manager. But is he good? That's the question. And so I'm going to chuck him in the middle here. Nuno, with the games that they've played recently, with the squad that they've got, Danilo, Morgan Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, like lots of really, really good players. For me, they shouldn't be anywhere near it. I really, really think that. I really, really think that. And I think you could be God in the summer when you think of how volatile the ownership feels like a lot of the time. To be fair, they gave Steve Cooper a bit of time, but he had credit in the bank. Nuno, less so. I think they will just about stay up. Or my head says that. My gut actually says Burnley might go and do it, because of the whole madness. And I get the VAR is a big part of this, and that affects it. But again, I haven't got a table for that. But you could say the same to Gary O'Neill. You could say the same to a lot of teams in this league. I think he'll be gone by November, and he'll be gone forever. I don't think he'll get another Premier League job after this. So for that reason, I'll chuck him in gone by November, but I don't think we'll see him again after that. I'd be surprised if we did. I actually think a lot of his management is actually a little bit of a fallacy. I know that sounds harsh. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. Unai Emery. Okay. Well, come on. What, Villa fans, let me hear you. Let me hear you scream. Because since he's come into the job, Villa are 4th in the Premier League with 35 wins in 61 games since he's been manager. And he's had to deal with injuries. He's had to deal with Europe. He's had to deal with Thursday, Sunday. He's had to deal with wobbles as well along the way. The squad building has been fantastic there, and I think that's an important thing in terms of the ceiling of all of these teams. But Unai Emery is absolutely, especially gets to a final, which could still happen, in a competition where Premier League teams should always be aiming to get to the final of that, of course. He's been unbelievable. He has such power there. He has signed. He is committed to the club as well, which I think is huge. I think he is a Manager of the Year nominee. Abso-bloody-lutely. phenomenal job. Play great football as well. Watkins has come on. Lots of players have developed to become better players as well. So the player development there has been fantastic as well. He's absolutely killing it. He's had an amazing season, and he's right up there. And actually, the manager of the year nominees is going to be really, really tricky here. Really, really tricky. Right, we're going to come back to this. But first, a word from our sponsor. Before we get into the video, I want to tell you about HelloFresh, who are sponsoring this video. Massive thank you to them for doing that. But they've got a great deal, and they are so valuable to me and my family. Let me explain exactly why. First of all, 60% off your first box and 20% off your next 2 months when you get a HelloFresh subscription. And you get free desserts for life. How bloody good's that? It couldn't be easier with HelloFresh as well. You get on the app, you answer a couple of questions like you want to have low-calorie meals, or do you want to keep your wastage down, which is another great thing about HelloFresh, whereas otherwise you do end up chucking stuff in the bin because it's gone off. Doesn't happen with HelloFresh because it's the perfect amount for your meals. A few that we've really enjoyed is the lamb masala. We also had like lamb koftas with garlic naan breads. That was really, really nice as well. And the sea bass with the pesto pasta. That was really, really yummy as well. And the other thing that's been really important to me is I'm trying to lose some weight at the moment is to not go crazy on my portion sizes, and HelloFresh gets the balance completely right and ensuring that that food is as nutritious as possible. And with HelloFresh, you've got budget friendly recipes, so it's saving you time and money. The flexibility of it is crucial as well. At any moment we can change, well, we could change our address if we moved, but you could change the amount of meals that you have. You can stop, you can cancel, you can do more. So if you want that offer, 60% off your first box, 20% off the next 2 months, and free desserts, use my code James Fresh for Life. That's F4L, James F4L, and get stuck in. You won't regret it. Thank you so much, James with glasses. HelloFresh is wicked. We use it regularly, so get involved. Links in the description. And as you saw there, it's a delicious little, well, you get free desserts. Yeah, we've spoken about it. Go check it out. Give it a chance. Yeah, you won't regret it. That means you don't have to think about food, basically, but eat good food. Right, we keep moving. Sean Dyche. The big Dyche. Roll of the Dyche. Here he comes. Where do people put him? Now, I do feel like the feeling and sentiment around him has changed somewhat in the last few games. Obviously, on a very, very strong run at the moment. So, but where does Dyche go? They are looking pretty safe now. Last year, of course, on 36 points they finished on. This season, much better shape, despite being on 36 points, but they've still got 3 games left. They've won 4 of the last 5, and I think that obviously changes the complexion of it quite heavily. Sean Dyche, XG and XGA, have both improved on last season. It was, again, this is at the end of the season as well. It was 45.2. The XG against was 65.7. This year, 49.6, so much higher there. And expected goals against, 50.9. That is a massive jump. 15 goals, in fact. I think, at the very least, he is impressive. I think when you add in the points deduction, I think the calmness that he's been able to kind of retain, I think that's been absolutely huge. And to now be, a couple of games ago, it was them Nottingham Forest. I think that's the thing I want to kind of keep in my mind, is the fact that a couple of games ago, it was tight between them and Nottingham Forest, and now they're 10 points clear, which shows how much it changes. But when it comes to the crunch, Sean Dyche he's kept calm, and they've been really, really impressive, I think, actually, in terms of their performances. Even games like, I remember watching the Man United game, they lost 3-0. They battered Man United. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And I'm thinking about it. I think it's very odd circumstances that he's had to deal with. Dominic Calvert-Lewin being awful as well during the period as well. Obviously, great performance in the Merseyside derby, but kept going, and keeping them in the league is absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. So much more to deal with. Yeah, someone's saying in the chat there. Absolutely right. Let me know how you feel about that. You happy with that Manager of the Year nominee position? What I'll do as well at the end of this one, I'll let you make a change at the end of it as well. Roy Hodgson. Good old Roy. Palace was 17th when he left. Just 4 points off the relegation zone. I think we could do Glasner and we could do Hodgson right now, couldn't we? Where are you, Glasner? I can't see you. Oh, I see you. We'll put them both in good, but is he good? And then we'll move from there. Glasner, I can't say too much, because I think the thing that I want to be careful with with Glasner is that Hodgson came into Palace last year and they caught fire in the last 5, 6, 7 games or whatever it was. Glasner is doing the same right now. Like, very impressive wins in terms of the wins that they've got. I think it's a more free-flowing team. What I want to see, I don't want to put judgment on him just yet because I think it's dangerous, and I also think he could be gone by November for the exact reason that they're going to lose. They could lose Eze, they could lose Elise, and those are two enormous footballers to lose from that team. And so that sort of a hot run of form that we saw last year and we saw this year, look, the manager was gone by December. He was gone by December. So I think with Glasner, they believe in him a bit more. I think he's obviously a much more modern manager as well. So I think I'm happy to go he's good, but is he good for now? Because I don't think there's a data set to put him any higher than that. For Roy, I think sadly he is gone forever. I think he's had an absolutely phenomenal career, and to survive as long as he has, not just generally, but like as a manager, is phenomenal. So we love you, Roy, but it might be time to retire. That said, maybe he might fancy a championship job. Who knows? Because he bloody loves football. I think I love it. He really loves it. Right, next up, who are we going for? Roberto De Zerbi. Now the drop-off from last season is wild. Again, there are factors in this one, right? But his XG against is very similar, but his XG is a lot less. So last season, 73.3 expected goals over the course of the season, obviously with a couple of games left now, just 50 this season. So there's been a real drop-off there. Huge rotation. I don't think all the links to different teams is helping at all. And I think the players are feeling that as well. Europe, injuries. Where are they on the injury list? Let's have a little look. Brighton pretty high on that in terms of 34 games lost from, and also I think with their squad is the sort of the quality of them all. There's a lot of first team players that have missed a lot of games for them this year, so I think it's fair to take that into account. I don't think he's had a good season, so I don't think we can put him in impressive, but I think we know he's good. But is he good? I think it'd be interesting. I'm fascinated to see his next job. I'm fascinated to see his next job. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how he gets on. And I think it's important for us to sort of take a second before we kind of think he's this like deity. I get it from Brighton's perspective. And look, this season could have been very different for them. And I still think they're a great team. But, the last month's been terrible. And again, I think that's maybe the sort of state of play in terms of where they are this season, but in terms of drop-off of points, it's pretty heavy. They're on 44 points right now. Last season, they finished on 62. And there's a few teams that have had that massive drop-off in points, which is interesting. Rob Edwards. Okay. First of all, good God, he's good looking. I think we've all enjoyed his face this season. I think we've enjoyed his demeanour. I think we've enjoyed the way he's sent his team out to play. I've heard things about his character, sort of, obviously off camera and all that stuff, and apparently he's just a wonderful human being. And I guess, he's potentially taking the relegation battle to the last day. We will see. It does feel like they're falling away. Fourth best for crosses into the penalty area, but I mean, their expected goals is miles ahead of the rest in a bad way. Including Sheffield United. Because it's that little bit more cavalier, the packaging of what we can get behind is much better. I think most people had them finishing 20th, sort of quite easily. And he's given them an opportunity. So I think for that alone, I think it's fair enough to put him in the impressive category, I think, this year. They could easily have been with a different energy, especially with the Tom Lockyer stuff, so much to deal with, and actually injuries right now to deal with as well. I think he's bordering on he's good, but is he good? Because I think I'd be intrigued to see him. Do you know what? I could see him at Wolves. I could see Gary O'Neill moving on to someone else at some stage, and Rob Edwards being the next Wolves manager quite easily. And I think he'd do an all right job. I think I'm going to put it to the vote there. How do we think? Good, but is he good or impressive? See, a lot of people thinking a similar thing. I think Luton with the expectations, but I just think the adrenaline of that has helped them more so than Sheffield United, for example, who have obviously really, really struggled with the fact that it's the same team, it's the same setup. Things have got, we'll talk about Chris Wilder next. But most people are saying impressive. All right, we'll go impressive. I think that's fair enough. Because good God, he is impressive. Wow. He's just, look at him. Anyway, Chris Wilder, another good friend. He's there on the wall. He's a great guy. We met once. You've got a bit of Rob Edwards about you, Jeff. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you very much. I mean, I wouldn't dare take that compliment seriously. But God, I wish I did look like him. Chris Wilder. Chris Wilder has, I mean, how many victories has he got since he's come into the job? Not many at all. 2 wins in 21 Premier League matches. They are on 16 points. They've won 3 games all season. They've conceded 97 goals. Now, that's not all on him, so we'll bring Heckingbottom into the fray. And I don't think it's on Heckingbottom really either. But I think if you think of like cycles and eras, you've got the guy who sort of started it and the guy kind of rejuvenated it in terms of getting back into the Premier League. But their hands were tied going into the season. They never really had a chance. The quality in the squad was not there at all. And I've got to say, because it's all going to be doom and gloom, if you're a Sheffield United fan watching this right now and you've gone to the games this year and you've hung in there, that's not easy. So well done to you. That is not enjoyable at all. I know. So, more enjoyable days are coming because the Championship will be better. I actually think there needs to be huge changes at Sheffield United. And I think in terms of the sort of tactical identity, I think everything, the squad, there's a lot of changes that need to be made. And I think there needs to be a fresh face personally. But saying that, I think, look, first of all, Heckingbottom, I don't think he's a Premier League manager, and I think more importantly, he won't get the opportunity to be a Premier League manager, which is a shame. Sometimes you need that little bit of luck. Again, we come to someone like Gary O'Neill, took the opportunity at the right time, and look where he is now. Getting interviewed for the Liverpool job and stuff, or possibly rumoured. Chris Wilder. The one thing I would say about Chris Wilder is give him a budget in the league below, and I think in terms of the experience that he has and the football that he wants to play, that's a good time. That's a really good time. If that doesn't go well quickly, especially with the way that the Championship is, and it is so cutthroat, I wouldn't be surprised if Sheffield United struggled, because they feel like a team that's going to go down and find it difficult, despite that being their level. And a lot of players, I just think it feels stale there. There needs to be changes. So I would expect, my gut would suggest that Chris Wilder will be gone by November. And will he get another Premier League job? I don't think he will. So in terms of the Premier League idea here, I think sadly he's gone forever. But I really hope he proves me wrong. I really, really do hope he proves me wrong. Okay. Postecoglou. Shall we talk Postecoglou? Interesting times for Postecoglou. Went unbeaten in the first 10 Premier League games. Won 8, drew 2, lost none. And has already matched the points total from last season. 60 points. Had 60 points at the end of the last season as well. By the way, do me a favour, guys. If you are either new to the channel and haven't hit subscribe, please do that for me. I'd really appreciate it. That'd be lovely. And if you could hit the like button, it will give the video a much better chance of doing well. So if you do have a second just to click that button, that'd be wicked. Right. And I think it's impressive. I think Manager of the Year nominee, I don't think we can do that. I think they have fallen off a little bit. I think the squad is good, but is it good? I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think I've enjoyed him. I think he's changed the whole feeling at Tottenham, and I think actually the way that he's trying to play football, year 1, year 2, year 3. Let's see how that plays out, because that could be an unbelievable story. An unbelievable story for Tottenham in terms of where they want to go. And I think you have to trust in his bravery. You do. And, the set-piece thing, that is a problem. But is that down to personnel? Is that a lesson he needs to learn and then change? Because once that goes wrong, you then have to, act accordingly. So that's something that he needs to look into. But I think it's fair to put him in impressive. Obviously, Arsenal fans or fans of all clubs might not fancy that. And it's interesting to see if people are going to turn on him a little bit. But I'm not. I really like what he's about, and I like the way they play. So I'm putting him impressive. Right, who else we got? David Moyes. Wow. Now here is a conversation. I think when we got this good, but is he good? I think it's a good one for it. But is it good? I know it is good, but is it good? Who knows? But I think it is good because it allows us a starting place to kind of go from there and just act with a bit of bloody respect. Now, I was listening to a podcast this week, Arsenal Vision. Arsenal Vision. That's not their jingle. But they were talking about David Moyes. And they were saying, how has David Moyes lasted this long? And they were talking about Arteta and how he respects every facet of the game. And so with Postecoglou, I think at the top end of the pitch, you have to be better than the opposition in open play. You've got to. You've got to dominate. You've got to be an attacking side, I think, overall. Because that's how you're going to win games when teams sort of defend against you. And I understand Postecoglou's struggling with the low block a little bit, but still, I think you can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to be a title contender. David Moyes, what he doesn't have is the David Moyes set piece, the small bits, the details that you need. Arteta's got both now, but they were previously maybe a little bit soft, a little bit light, a little bit too young, whatever. But you could see what they were doing in terms of playing good football, but the set pieces maybe weren't there. David Moyes is kind of the other way around. And so sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. But for that squad, I've kind of got to a point where I feel like you've got to kind of take the gamble with David Moyes, where I think in terms of making yourself a top 6 side, making yourself an Aston Villa, I think in open play, you've got to be a little bit better now. And not that the game's like passed him by, but I think his principles are very like ingrained. And so I think he'll be gone by November. I think he'll be gone by the summer. I think isn't his contract is his contract up in the summer? If so, I think they will just go, thank you very much. But there's probably some exciting names out there that could go wrong. Okay. But I'm going to put him in gone by November. I just, I think his time is over there. And I think he needed a better 2024 to sort of save himself a little bit and maybe a better style of play as well. Because he only spent one game week outside the top 10 the whole season. Currently in 8th in the league. So from that point of view, it's good. But I think if you look a bit deeper, West Ham fans are kind of going, look, we've got a really exciting squad here. And again, if you can get the depth right. Yeah, I agree with PJ Quinn. I think he feels like he's hit his ceiling a little bit there, yeah. Let's stick with C. Let's go Gary O'Neill. Better win rate at Wolves compared to Bournemouth. 30.4% win rate at Bournemouth. 37.1% win rate at Wolves. I think in this season, when we talk about VAR, Wolves have been absolutely done by it, like several times. So that takes away some points. I also think injuries to key players. Let's go have another look again. Where are Wolves in this one? Wolves are... Where are you? See, Wolves are down the bottom. Wow. I think it's in the last sort of 7-8 games, maybe. You know, not having Cunha. It escapes me some of the other players, but I think there's other players that have kind of hurt them a little bit. And the fact that they're safe, they're okay. We were all a bit worried about Wolves at the start of the season. And so maybe it's one of those ones where they're not on the beach, but the energy levels are just that touch lower. But obviously beat Luton recently after a bad run. I think he's done a really good job. Stepping into it's been very difficult. I think they've played impressively. I think they've played impressively against the good sides, beating Chelsea, should have beaten Man United first game of the season, should beat Man City. I think he's done a good job. I think he's been impressive overall. I think it's one, though, it might be interesting where, like, at the end of the season, when you see where they finish in the league, because I think they've got a couple of hard games to finish off with, it might be one where people sort of tweak their thoughts, and the same goes for a lot of these guys. So, because I think the same goes with Pochettino, which we can talk about now. Pochettino, I mean, it's not been impressive, has it? But again, that said, the last few games that they've got are actually all winnable. They've got 4 games left. They've got a game in hand on the others. They've got Man United and Newcastle United, obviously, to catch up, who they've only got 1 game in hand on. But if they win their game in hand at the moment, then they're up to 50. They're only 2 points off Newcastle, 3 points off Manchester United. And so in terms of getting European football, that would be something. But I guess for the amount that you've put in there, you expect more. I expect a little bit more. I think, look, there's actually a lot of the sort of undercover metrics make you feel like there's something decent there. Obviously, the points per match has gone up, 1.16 last season, up to 1.45. Scored 63 goals, which is the 7th best in the Premier League. But the bottom line for me is they are soft. They are soft, and maybe it's one where you kind of, do you have that patience with the young group where you go, look, in against these top teams, they seem to be up for it. And then when it's the sort of lesser sides, they don't have that professionalism, that killer instinct, that, baseline standard or leaders either to sort of make sure the whole group is in the right place. I think he has to be more cutthroat. But I think that's difficult because he's given a sort of plate of young players that he's going to have to deal with for some time, I would imagine. So there's a lot of difficult stuff for him. And I would not be surprised if they get European football at the end of it. It's one of those weird ones at the end of the season a lot of the time where teams that kind of you think of like had an absolute disaster end up going win, 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 and then all of a sudden they're in Europe. Definitely not impressive. I don't think he'll be gone by November because I just don't think there's enough managers out there. If I was Chelsea, I think I would I would stick with him because I just don't think you're going to get a better manager, and that might frighten the other players maybe to just offer that little bit more. And so I'm going to have to put him in. He's good, but is he good? Where should we go? Marco Silva. He's got a better XG and XG against compared to last season. You think of how important Mitrovic was last season. This year, they've spread their goals around. They've had some really good victories as well. Just a really good, solid mid-table team this year. They've got less points, I think. But in terms of, like the overall goals that they've scored, I think this year they're on 51 goals with 3 games left. They got 55 goals last season. They play good football. I think Marco Silva's a really good manager. And again, in terms of the ceiling of that group, it's one where there's not a huge amount of players, but they can all kind of step in and do a job. So I think they're in a good place. And I think Marco Silva is one where actually some people are going to be looking at him for a big job. I would not be surprised. I think he's been impressive. I do. I really like him. And I think Fulham are lucky to have him at the moment. Just because, I think the Sharks will circle. Right. Eddie Howe. Let's talk Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe's had to deal with a hell of a lot. I'm going to go there again. Top when it comes to injuries and days lost. Days lost, look, 1,658, which is more than anyone by a solid distance. 38 games lost by those players. And again, I think I did a video right at the start of the season about, the depth of the squad and if it was there. I think the Champions League was a distraction. I said it was going to be a distraction at the start of the season. It turned out to be a bit of a distraction. Obviously an exciting one and one to enjoy. So I don't think that's a problem. But then when it kind of goes wrong, it felt like there was a hangover from that. Add it in, I think there was a lot of suspensions for Newcastle. The defence not being in the right state after being so strong the year before. And, a lot of games, players tired, jaded probably. And then you have, that Christmas period and January where there's probably a lot of games a lot of the time as well. I know there's a little break there. But since then, I said on numerous things that I thought his last 8 games or so, they were quite nice fixtures. And I think if they did well, then there'll be a very different outlook. And I think there is now. And I think he's safe and he's surviving the season. I think he's done well there. If they can get European football, which they could do easily, that is unbelievable with the things that they've had to deal with. I'm just a massive fan of Eddie Howe. Massive fan of him. They've scored more than last season. I think it's important to say as well. They've scored more this season than last season when they finished 4th. So 68 goals last season in 38 games, 74 this season already. It's the defence that's the problem. But I think the defence can be fixed. And I think the defence can be fixed cheaper than the attacking side of it. Can they hold on to those attacking players? Isak obviously being the main one. I don't know. But I actually think he's done impressive. I think he's definitely impressive. I think that's an easy one for me. Manager of the year, absolutely not. But impressive, absolutely. Okay. Pep. See, Pep is one where you go, like, obviously he's impressive, and obviously they're doing really well, aren't they? They're going to do the double again. But it's weird, the expectations and the ceiling of the club is so high. I think he, as a manager, has actually done pretty well to kind of keep it together and keep it moving forward. So in terms of a manager of the year nominee, I think it's an easy position to put him at the top, which I think obviously speaks volumes for how well he's done. No team ever has done 4 on the trot. He has got the least clean sheets in the last 7 seasons, with 11. Although he only had 13. Although they only had 13 in the treble winning season, so how much does that matter? We've got a super chat here that says, Wasteman Klopp is worst out of all. Okay, Michael, thank you very much for that. We'll talk about them in just a second. Get your super chats in if you've got any thoughts on that one. Pep, look, Manager of the Year nominee, I think it's fair to put him in there. And actually, there's a discussion at the end where you guys have your vote, because you go, look, if he's going to win it all again, can you not give it to him? That's a discussion to be had. Iraola. What a bloody season this lad's had. And again, I'm amazed he's not being linked with clubs. I wonder if there's a feeling from Liverpool that it would have been lazy for them to just go and get him with the links that they've kind of got with Richard Hughes at Bournemouth. But I think they probably would have wanted to do it, but it might create a sort of a different narrative that you don't really want to have. He went without a win in the first 9 games as he's trying to get his philosophy across. He did that. I like the squad. I like the squad building. I like the way they play. I like the energy they have. I like the creativity they have. Solanke's a good player. You've got a good bunch of pros there, all at the right age as well. I think he's won 6 of his last 10, and they're currently 10th in the league. I think he's been phenomenal. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. I think it's a manager. The thing is, right, I had Bournemouth 12th anyway. I expected him to do well. So I might put this one to the chat. Is he a Manager of the Year nominee? It depends how you want to look at Bournemouth. To play the football they've played, just quietly going about their business, absolutely, they've done so well. I'm happy to put them in as a nominee. It's at the very minimum is impressive. I'm chucking him up there. Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. It's 50-50. Yeah, I think a lot of people say Manager of the Year nominee. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting when we compare those last 4. Okay. Erik Ten Hag. Gone by November. I'm sorry. So Man United fans might get annoyed about me kind of, and I really appreciate the loyalty that Ten Hag is being shown by the Man United fans. I think it's impressive. I think you need to see it. You need to see what's going on. I know I've said this several times. Conceded 51 in 34 games compared to last season when they conceded 43 in 38. They got 75 points last season. They are currently on 54. I just can't understand why you would. The only reason you stick with him is because you feel like the market's so weak that you can't get anyone else better in. And I think that's, we just spoke about Iraola there. Why is Iraola not being linked with the Man United job? I find that odd. I find that really odd. I think it'll be gone by November. I think it's dangerous sometimes to go, I think Gary Neville said this on the overlap. I thought it was a really good point, is that if you give a manager, we'll give him the first few months, that means you're giving him the transfer window, which means the next manager doesn't get the transfer window. And so with Ten Hag, obviously maybe he doesn't need to make those decisions, but there is always a veto there, and so that needs to be kept in mind. That the injuries are fair dues, because people get annoyed about this as well. Man United have had real problems with injuries this year, and so that has to be remembered. But the drop-off in form of certain players comes from a lack of a real system and identity, personally. There's got to be something in between. You can't be that good and then that bad. That is a huge, huge drop-off. And I think they've been very, 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 very fortunate to win a lot of the games that they've played. That's just my opinion. And I think Man United can do better. Personally, I think they can play better. So, gone by November for me. Klopp. He's good, but is he good for me? No. I think it's funny, people talking about the end of his cycle. It's just rubbish. It's just, for me, it's just absolute rubbish that can be the case. People always say people don't remember you when you come into your job. They remember you when you leave. Jurgen Klopp is going to leave the club with the squad in a much better place, the development of that squad in a much better place. I think it's going to be very difficult next season because, say, that counter-pressing nature, you're going to stick with that? Is there a manager that can do that, allow you to do that? There's going to be real changes there. And you talk about Iraola with not winning his first 9 matches. That's because it's the growing pains, right? So that's going to happen to whoever takes over from Jurgen Klopp. But that is he's a monster of a manager. And I think in terms of game by games, right, he has been able, due to the profile of the squad and the different profiles that are available, but he has won games with his substitutions time and time again this season. And without that, yes, it's maybe a bit like of a hectic style of play, and the amount of games that they were behind, that's not ideal. Maybe there's not the right amount of control that there needs to be this season from them. But the injuries that they had in January, I think he's had a fantastic season. What I would say is I would not put him in a Manager of the Year nominee, and I'll tell you why. The reason I wouldn't put him in there for Manager of the Year nominee is I said they would finish, is on a personal level, I said they would finish second. And it doesn't look like they're going to finish second. Ultimately, they're third best in terms of goals scored and conceded when you compare them to Man City. They've taken the most shots in the league, so they've been very entertaining. And I thought they were going to go and win it at one stage. And he has been let down by his players somewhat, I think, because they got into very solid positions and then lost their way. There's a lot of kind of individual errors along the way. And so, yeah, that's what just sneaks him out there. And maybe it can be spun both ways. I think you could definitely say that he could be knocking around there because of everything I've said in terms of going and winning games. But in terms of my expectations for that team, I thought they would get right to the end and finish second. And maybe they still will. But I don't think that rewards him with a Manager of the Year nominee, personally. Yeah. Arteta, Manager of the Year nominee. Easy. So easy. He's been, again, in terms of maybe not in the sexiest way, but in terms of the squad that he's got there and how he's gone about it, most goals scored. He's got the least conceded this season. Shots on target against per 90, 3.5 last season. This season, 2.1. He has built a team that is so hard to beat. So well coached. And when they look great, it's a transformer. It's its own entity. They're just really smart group of players with, in terms of sort of world class players, I think there's a debate maybe for another time, but I think in terms of like X Factor players, let's say, the X Factor has not always been there, but they've continued to sort of hang in there. Josh Phillips says, Klopp, is he not technically gone forever? Yeah, I think, I don't want to let him go out like that. Doesn't feel fair. And hey, you never know. Might fancy a QPR job in a couple of years' time. Okay. Simply Jeff says, 5 years, Jim, and no trophies. Move him on. I think Arteta's doing a fantastic job there. It's coming. We can see it. I think they need that final step. They need that X factor a little bit. But I think he's had a great season. And it's progression, right? It's progression. So I think he has to be a nominee as well. And there you have it. So 2 questions for you. One change. We'll do the one change. What's the one change that you would make? Get in the comments right now. If it was me and I had to make one change, I think, Klopp can go in a few different positions. I think good, but is he good? Is spot on. I think I'm pretty happy with this. Could you put Rob Edwards down one? Thomas Frank, we expect a little bit more from Brentford this year. Gary O'Neill, is it just because he's a nice bloke that we're putting him a bit higher? Iraola, is he actually manager, nominee? Sean Dyche, should he actually be that high? Obviously, they would be in a very different position if they didn't have the points deductions that they have. You guys are going with a few Dyche downs. Yeah, quite a few Dyche downs. Dyche down one. Oh, Dyche. Everton fans, heartbreak for you. It's happened. Okay. So, here we go. Manager of the Year. We have Unai Emery of Aston Villa. Pep Guardiola of Manchester City. Iraola of Bournemouth. Or Mikel Arteta of Arsenal. Who is your Manager of the Year? right in the comments right now. And whilst you're typing away, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, make sure you check out all the content. If you didn't watch the Bayern Real Madrid analysis, I'm really, really chuffed with that one. We got a bit of love out there in the community, which was wonderful, and we were really pleased with our analysis on that one. So if you do have a bit of time, go check that out, and make sure you check out the pod with Flav that's coming up. But here we go. Who is the manager of the year? And try not to just vote for the team you support. Okay, which is just not going to happen, is it? Okay, Emery. We've got Arteta's in here. It's Emery and it's Arteta. It's Emery and it's Arteta. A cheeky Pep there. 4 in a row. I think it's a fair point. A few Iriolas, not a crazy amount of Iriolas, I'll be honest. Which I think is maybe a little bit harsh, but actually, as I say, I think I've had them 12th in the league at the start of it all. I think we have a winner. The winner is